Hey Rakesh, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. Right, let's get this show on the road, I think. Welcome, everybody. We are going to talk about our 8 hyper automation predictions for 2023 today. This is part of our automation series. Apologies for being a little bit late. We were having some technical difficulties, which is quite something when we're talking about automation. So, first of all, let me just say a warm welcome to Paul Morrison, and maybe we do some quick intros, and then we can go through prediction by prediction. So, Paul, do you want to start with a quick intro?
Great, yeah, absolutely. Great to join everyone today on the call. I'm Paul Morrison. I'm managing director at ProServatna. I've been on a hyper automation journey for the last 15 or 20 years or so, working in GBS and outsourcing engagements with clients, working through RPA, document capture, and other automation challenges in the last 10 years or so, and very much in the thick of some of our key account strategies in the space. So great to be talking about these trends.
Thank you, Paul. I'm Rakesh Sangani. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the chief executive of ProServatna, background as a chartered accountant, and then probably fell into automation about 7 years ago now. I was initially a bit of a cynic around RPA, then moved over to being more of an evangelist, and now recognize that RPA is great, but you can't automate everything, and you need an ecosystem of technologies. So working on lots and lots of automation transformation projects with FTSE 100, Fortune 500 companies. Really pleased to be here in our first podcast around our automation series. And where we wanted to start, I guess, was these predictions. And I think we should do this in quite a rapid fire approach, Paul. So the first prediction we had was around the operating model for automation. And I guess this is when we're saying it's clear in the marketplace that a decentralized model where you have a robot for every person, or a data scientist for every person, or AI for every person, whilst it sounds wonderful and very empowering for employees, is maybe something that has struggles around governance and control and standards and relationship with the vendor management community. And on the flip side of the equation, you have a centralized model, which gives you lots of control and governance and standards and quality assurance and the relationship with the vendors, but doesn't necessarily allow that scaling, because the rest of the enterprise might feel it's a small team controlling this for the whole business. So what we predict is actually what will be most prevalent in 2023 is that the operating model in hyper automation that businesses will move to is either a hybrid model or a hub and spoke model, where they have some level of central governance and control, but then have teams managing data science, managing AI, managing RPA and other tools and technologies in each function, in each geography. And I think that's the number one prediction that we had for 2023. I don't know if you see that already, Paul.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a key tug of war, isn't it, between the centre and the wider community? And I think it is a key question that's been playing out. And I think the reality is that the two ends of the spectrum don't work. You can't scale and make these technologies take wings across an organization if it's just tightly controlled in a single central COE, and yet you can't coordinate, you can't optimize, you can't manage risk if it's fully pushed out to the business units and geographies. So there's got to be some sort of balance, and I think working with our clients, we see them trying to calibrate that correctly, and I think it's going to take some time to pan out exactly the right point to cast it for each individual organization. But absolutely, we see organizations trying to calibrate that now.
Excellent. So let's move on. That's prediction number one. Prediction number two was around AI and NLP, and I think our prediction here was that digital technologies that work with written and spoken language will continue to develop at speed. Yeah, I think the best example of this is ChatGPT. Gone from nothing to 1 million users in about a week. And the coolest bit of AI that seems to exist in today's marketplace. But Paul, what do you think about this market of NLP and the AI capability? Do you see that also improving and getting more sophisticated in 2023 with a lot more adoption by organizations?
No, great. This is super exciting. This is really a pivotal moment, I think, in the automation space. And I think the last few years it's been possible to see this coming through with new language models getting better and better, and more high-profile chatbots that are spookily, authentic. And that's been happening, I think, particularly the last 2 to 3 years with GPT-3 coming through. In a sort of practical GBS or shared services environment, I think the key use case at the moment, the thing that we picked up last year in particular, was the fact that document capture technologies like OCR were suddenly getting much better rather quickly. So some of the document automation, Abbey Vantage type tools, Rossum, and many others, really becoming much more effective, more powerful, and more effectively trained. And that's building off the same underlying AI techniques around natural language processing. So I think that's been a leading indicator for us. It's now much easier, for example, to capture accurate invoices, accurate orders, and scan them and use them in your core systems. And I think the very latest, you mentioned ChatGPT, the sort of latest generation in chatbots, which are able to respond very quickly, very impressively to a whole range of questions, is a sort of new frontier of systems being able to interact with language. And at the end of the day, there's no bigger interface than the human language. This is really transformative, I think, and I'll shut up in a second because I get excited about this, but I think it's going to take a few years for the use cases to pan out, but we can already see in areas like help desks, in coding, in synthesizing lots of data. These are key GBS shared services activities and tasks that can all really be accelerated and improved with that sort of technology.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. Prediction number 3 is around RPA. So, hey, look, we're big fans of RPA. We do lots of work in that space. What we see is that RPA will continue to grow, but not at the rate it's grown in previous years. So I think that's an interesting prediction for many. And I know when I speak to some of my peers in RPA, they're a bit bullish around the growth. I think there's still certainly be growth, but it seems to be slowing down. I think you can see that slightly from looking at what's happening with the market valuations of RPA companies over the last few years. You can see that what's happening with the customers who have maybe bought too many licenses in their initial acquisition and sourcing of licenses, and are now going through a little bit of a correction, recognizing that you don't need 500 licenses for 500 processes. You might be able to do it with 20. So that's kind of my feel of the marketplace, and the analysts do agree that RPA is growing, but we believe it will grow at a slower rate than last year. Paul, any comments?
Completely agree. I would add, to some extent, it's the law of big numbers. It's more and more difficult for RPA to continue that sort of hypergrowth phase, and now many of the providers are big, well-established companies. So it's partly that maturity, I think, and partly the search for new additional functionalities, and I'm sure we'll touch on that and some of the other trends that the exam question of automation has become bigger.
Definitely. Excellent. So the next prediction number 4, is around citizen scientists and citizen developers. So for us, this relates not just to RPA, but also to process mining and task mining, and also to the field of AI, where we see 2023 really being the year where the citizens will be empowered more and more with these tools and technologies, and the growth of that citizen model will certainly increase. I think businesses recognize that to really generate value, that I think as we started, that federated or hub and spoke model, where the citizens are also doing some of their own automation or analysis, is the way to maximize the benefit of those tools and technologies within the enterprise. So 2023 is the year of the citizen. Paul, would you agree?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I guess in a sense it's building on the years of Amazon and Apple showing the way in terms of usability. It's a sort of logical trend that many areas of technology are following, that sort of usability and putting tools in the people that really want to use them. So yeah, definitely see that across multiple types of tool. Yeah, RPA, visualization, analytics. There's loads to go at with this, and definitely going to accelerate.
Yeah, agree completely. So let's move on. So those were our top 4 predictions. Number 5, our 5th prediction, is a big one. It's around Microsoft. So when I look at what Microsoft Teams did to Slack, and if you look at the graphs around how Microsoft Teams was growing, and then all of a sudden hit exponential growth in the marketplace and overtook Slack hugely in terms of the number of users adopting Teams, we can see Microsoft Power Automate in a similar way being the fastest growing platform in RPA today. So what we really see is Microsoft is, after the acquisition of Softomotive, after adding more and more functionality, it will certainly grow. We see organizations that already have Blue Prism or UiPath or Automation Anywhere are looking at Microsoft for attended automation, and other organizations are looking at Microsoft for both unattended and attended. So 2023 is where I really see huge growth for Microsoft in that automation, Power Automate space. Paul, any comments?
Well, I was just going to ask you a question. I mean, do you think that acceleration, that uptick has happened already with Power Automate? Do you think it's still being, raising its profile and still in the early days? How do you see it?
Yeah, look, it's not number 1 in the marketplace yet. If you read the Gartner reviews, the Forrester reviews, the analysts talk about Microsoft as a real challenger. So I do think there's a way to go. I think lots of customers already use Microsoft, so it makes it easy to kind of move on to Power Automate. And even those on Google platforms is getting value from using the Microsoft Power Automate platform. So I think the growth actually will be higher than the growth that we saw in 2022 and 2021. Yeah. Actually, I think it will probably supersede the growth of the other platforms in this space. And I think there's only a matter of years before Microsoft becomes number 1 in the marketplace in all of those analyst reviews.
So that throws down the gauntlet to the established names about how they keep ahead, how they add value, how do they move beyond RPA. So I guess we can expect some smart moves made from some of the likes of UiPath, Automation Anywhere as well.
Yeah, and I think we already are, right? So you see they're all being quite acquisitional, buying more and more functionality within that toolkit of automation. Obviously, UiPath with AI apps added in, with the test automation suite, which is quite popular at the moment, with process mining, with task mining. I think they're already trying to add in that capability. It's just a lot easier for businesses to buy Microsoft. So I think that will be the challenge that will exist. So that's prediction number 5. Number 6 for us is just around teams and the structure of teams in this space. So I think when we started off working in RPA about 7 years ago, what we recognized was there was a lot of RPA centers of excellence that were set up. What we see now is a realization that that's not enough. It's not enough just having an RPA center of excellence. What you really need to do is integrate RPA with other technology. So you have more of an automation or an intelligent automation or a hyper automation center of excellence. But even that's not enough. I think you then need to integrate that with your process improvement capability, your Lean Six Sigma capability that exists, because you want to be able to analyze the processes just before you automate them. But I also think that's also not enough. You need to add in then your process discovery capability. So, whether you use task mining or process mining or whatever tools you use to explore processes even before you improve them and automate them. So, what we see in 2023 is many, many more businesses integrating that process discovery, that process improvement, and a broader automation team together to enable that all to be in one place within their businesses.
Interesting. And I guess lying behind that, there's always a question about where does that sit in the organization? There's sort of that tug of war between, is this something that sits with IT? Does it sit with GBS, the business? And there's lots of organizational complexity bringing that special place together. So it's always fun trying to define it.
Yeah, don't get me started on where it should sit in the business. I'm not sure we have a prediction around that. I think just having that capability integrated is benefit in itself, and then we'll let the political stakeholders within an organization fight over who should own it, whether it's IT, shared services, finance, or the business, or HR, or procurement, or wherever. So that's our prediction number 6. Number 7. Out of 8 predictions, what we see more and more that will happen in 2023 is that hyperautomation will be focused on improving the user experience. So it won't be just about cost. It won't be just about productivity enhancement. It will be more around how can we improve customer user satisfaction? How can we differentiate against competition a bit better? How can we enhance customer loyalty by doing these things smarter, more effectively, and making that user journey seamless? And I think we certainly see 2023 being a big year for user experience. Paul, any comments?
Definitely. And I think there's lots of things to unpack in this as a trend. And I think you've got some of the tools of the trade here around how does a GBS or a shared service or an operational function, how does it handle things like help desk? How does it handle case management, ticketing at a sort of simple level? These are the front line of the user experience battle. What is the approach to accessibility, portals, a single pane of glass, the single shop window for different services? All of these things can be designed better. And I think leading practitioners in this space are investing in the skills around UX. We see dedicated UX roles around designing that. We see investment in tools like ranging from ServiceNow, a market leader in this space, to other challenges like Zoho, where you can give a fresh face to many of these old processes. And I think the final thought is that behind all this is the idea about how do you plan the user journey, the user experience. And I think when we work with, for example, a finance organization, we see many of our clients using experience and journey planning techniques to break down ways of thinking about how finance is done, for example, and think again. Process is always going to be king, but maybe it's going to be complemented by this sort of UX thinking more and more as we go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. I think that UX is a critical consideration now at the start of your automation journey. So wonderful. Our final, I know you're all excited about this, our final prediction for 2023, our 8th prediction out of 8, is what we see in the marketplace is RPA and process mining has really become established as common ground for many businesses who are bringing both of those technologies together to maximize the benefits in their organization. We see that task mining will be added onto that toolkit. So, businesses will integrate process mining, RPA, and task mining together to be able to identify automation improvements, to identify process improvements, and automate them in a seamless manner. Now, you then have options around that. Do you use one technology for all three? Do you use best of breed for all three? Do you use a mismatch of both? Yeah, we do a lot of work around helping organizations navigate the complexity of what vendors offer in this space. But certainly we see more and more that I think task mining will be the emerging tech. And by the end of the year, that will become common ground together with process mining and RPA. Any final comments on that?
Totally agree. I think it's a really exciting growth area around task mining. And I think the way you describe it there, this sort of coming together of different technologies, RPA, process mining, task mining, workflow is another front line in this whole evolution of technology we see. You only have to look at some of the key players and how they're trying to develop the offering. You think about Microsoft, you mentioned how they're adding to Power Automate, the Power Platform, how that's bringing in chat and process mining or automation anywhere from the RPA stable, adding Fortress IQ around task mining, Nintex buying Cryon. All of these key players are trying to bring together this sort of wider orchestration or multi-sided automation platform, and it's exciting to see that evolve and play out.
Fantastic. Yeah, I completely agree. Those were our 8 predictions for 2023 around hyperautomation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly. Thank you all for listening, and thanks, Paul, for taking part.
Thank you, Rakesh. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.